Welcome to the Friday Main Event High School Football Preview Show. This is a 3A edition. Lee Teat. We've had 1A, 2A. We're 3A, and what's 3A been about for the last
100 years?
100 years.
Alcoa.
Alcoa, and Alcoa was the team to beat in 2017. Again, last year, Lee, you and I were at the title game. In Alcoa, really not much difficulty getting there again. They went through the playoffs pretty easy. I guess Austin East was a region rival in the quarterfinals. Team expected to play them close. Matter of fact, I think Coach Rankin told us he had some concerns over the athleticism they had there at Austin East.
He did. Johnson County was within 9 points of them, of Austin East.
Right.
Then Austin East turns around, goes into the quarterfinals. Alcoa blows them out, beats them by 20.
20 points, and then that set up a match with Red Bank, a good Red Bank team that we talked in another episode. Chad Grabowski did a really good job entering that game with 11 wins in the quarterfinals, wound up eventually losing his job, ironically, but Alcoa, I guess, probably had something to do with that. After they defeated them 34-0, pitched a shutout, and Gary Rankin's team was on to another title game. On the west side of the bracket, I think myself, you, most of the media in the state, Pearl Cone. Everybody expected Pearl Cone to be there, strong all year. Entered the playoffs at 8-2. Weren't even scored upon until the third round, Lee. They had
right.
2 shutouts in the first 2 rounds. Fairview played them, not so close really, 41-17. Pearl Cone goes up against our buddy Marty Wheeler's Covington squad, and I don't know if anybody had Covington in the preseason top 10 other than us.
That's right.
We felt Marty Wheeler's team would be really good, followed him real close, had him on the show us a couple times. Their biggest rival, and it's a region rival, is Milan. They were very, very close games with Milan. I think they matched up with Milan again, had a 7-point win there in the second round, I believe it was, Lee.
Right.
Then they faced a Raleigh, Egypt team that entered the playoffs undefeated. They were 11-0, 12-0. Then they run into Covington, the mighty Chargers of Covington, Marty Wheeler's team, wound up getting upset 35-16. And Covington, a big surprise last year.
I think so, but I tell you what, Covington's physicality, it shouldn't, but I still think it does sneak up on some teams that are not familiar with them, i.e. Pearl Cone, i.e. Raleigh, Egypt.
Right.
Pearl Cone, Raleigh, Egypt, more spread the field guys, get it out, finesse type game, and then they match up with Covington, and Covington's just popping you in the mouth every play and controlling the field, controlling time of possession. A lot of times they get you behind the chains, and that's what Coach Wheeler does.
So David and Goliath, Pearl Cone, Covington in the semifinals. Everybody had Pearl Cone. Covington wins 31-28 with a field goal late to win that game. And then that goes on to, as we know, a defeat at the hands of Alcoa 31-20. Pretty well-played game,
yes.
I felt, by the Chargers in that championship.
I think, too, last year, and we'll allude to that here in a minute, Coach Rankin had to find different ways to win.
Right.
Which is a testament to his staff. I think he may have one of the best staffs.
You're including college staffs as well, aren't you?
Well, he's got one of the best. Nicks and those guys, his pedigree of all the coaches that have come on and left him.
Yeah.
But that was a testament to what kind of coach he is. He had to find different ways to win.
That's correct.
And he did it.
All right. Well, Lee, that leads us into the 2018 season, and we're going to go ahead and give you our region rundown. We'll start at Region 1 with the Johnson County team that I thought played above their head. They're in a pretty weak region. They go 5-0 in region. They enter the playoffs 10-0. And the reason why I say this region is weak, they were within 1 point of being swept by a very good Region 2. They being Johnson County, wound up beating Northview Academy by 1 in the first round. That was the only win for Region 1 in the playoffs. But the Longhorns, led by Don Curley, 24-19 in 4 years, only has 2 starters back on offense, 4 on defense. So I think this is a good scenario here where if they didn't get it done last year, they weren't going to get it done. That's the way I'm seeing it.
I agree. Big big-time player for them this year is going to be Troy Arnold. And he was actually Johnson County, I think, their quarterback last year. Troy Arnold's his little brother.
Okay.
So this may be his first go at starting, but he's a senior, so I expect to see some good stuff out of him.
Going on down, West Green was a runner-up in that region. They've got 5 starters back on both sides of the ball. They've got Kyler Clowers, who's just listed as an athlete, kind of does a lot for that team on both sides of the ball. 6-5 last year, 4-1 in region play. That's Joe Case's team. I think West Green probably going to be a contender here for the region title. All of these region games were very close. Johnson County, I think, beat West Green 28-21. They beat Unicoi County 28-14. So there wasn't any blowout wins last year. The region was pretty level. Not a particularly good region, but a pretty level, even region. Not a lot of mediocrity, I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of how I would describe it. Johnson County's out of region stuff. They obviously blew through it.
Right.
This region may play out exactly the way it did last year.
Yeah, I think it will.
Well
Unicoi County lead with the most returning starters, 7 on both sides of the ball. Drew Rice's squad. The Blue Devils have got Brett Strother, athlete, Ike Edwards, Cody Lewis, a lot of names that people up in that area are familiar with.
Right.
They'll be you almost would have to put them as the favorites with 7 kids back on each side of the ball.
Well, they got a sophomore quarterback, so we'll see how that how he develops as the year goes. That's always big.
Rounding out that region is Claiborne County, Chucky Doak, and again, this region was almost within 1 point of being swept in the first round. I don't think they're going to probably represent too well again this year versus a very, very good Region 2, headlined by Alcoa, the Tornadoes, Gary Rankin squad. Every year, I mean, if there's any class division that you pick the same team to win it every year, it's Alcoa. They're just unbelievable.
Man, Gary's 158-17 in 12 years.
At Alcoa.
And 17 of those 12 of those losses, I think, are to Maryville.
Yeah, I can believe that. I want to say 2010 may have been the last Alcoa win. I'd have to check myself on that, but something like that. But, yeah, Gary Rankin gets it done. He's at 410 career wins right now, which obviously first place in the state all time. I don't think that record will ever be touched, Lee, let alone broken. And he's got 7 starters back on offense, 6 on defense. It's kind of ironically, of all the players, the gifted, talented athletes on this squad, only one kid made All-State that was non-senior as an Alcoa player last year, and that was Zeke Rankin. Coach Gary Rankin's son, Zeke, All-State as a kicker. He's the only returner off the All-State team from last year.
Well, I tell you what, too, I like Walker Russell and Kevon Tyson. Tailback and the quarterback combination right there. Truth of the matter is, I hate to say this early in our region talk, but I think Alcoa is hands down probably in 3A hard to beat. I just don't know if anybody can compete with them. And as talented as Austin East, we're getting ready to talk about them, as talented as Austin East was last year when it got time to come to the playoffs, just couldn't hang.
No, and that's Jeff Phillips' squad. He's 34-25 in 5 years at Austin East. They finished the season last year, lead 10-3, 5-1. They did, as we mentioned earlier, lose to Alcoa 34-14, 20-point loss there in the quarterfinals. They've got 6 starters back on offense, 7 on defense. They do have Isaiah Ligon, who is a wide receiver, free safety, two-way player, only a junior this year, made All-State as a sophomore, so he'll be a fun one to watch up there.
That's right, and Trey Foster running the show at quarterback. So Coach Phillips got an excellent squad, 6 back on one side, 7 on the other.
Mm-hmm.
I fully expect them to have a great season.
I think so too, Lee. And then moving on down in that region, Kingston, the Yellow Jackets lose to Alcoa in the second round, 42-0. Got 7 starters back on offense, 6 on defense. Elijah Reeder, the wide receiver, free safety senior, one of the guys expected to lead that squad. Brandon Lurie up front, big offensive lineman. He should be a factor. The Yellow Jackets probably in a good position to finish second or contend for second with Austin East. And then moving on down, Lee, quickly, Northview Academy finished up third in the region. Excuse me, they finished up fourth in the region last year. They've got 3 starters back on offense, 6 on defense. I think I've got our buddy Derek Rain leapfrogging them this year. I think he gets the Highlanders into the playoffs this year.
I think so too. And Gatlinburg Pittman's got an excellent facility. Derek Rain is an excellent coach. And if I'm a kid that lives in that area, I want to go play for Coach Rain.
He's a good one.
Good coach, and he's got a bunch of guys back, several seniors and juniors. I fully expect him. Man, he could be competing for second.
Yeah.
One ball bounces the right way for him, he might slide into that second spot.
7 starters, Lee, back on both sides of the ball. And, again, we know it's well noted his coaching background or his coaching success, I guess I should say. He's not he's still not very young. I think he's 30, 31.
Very young.
Coached at Powell before going to Dresden, winning a state title a couple of years ago at Dresden. So he's one of my favorite young coaches. And we always enjoy having him on because it's so apparent how much knowledge he has of the game of football at such a young age.
Well, he sat under Coach Quarles.
He did, exactly. Played under him and coached.
Something's pretty cool about that is if Pitt GP, that's what I call him, GP, if Gatlinburg Pittman can push with these athletes a little bit, I think Coach Rankin knows how to play Coach Rankin.
He knows how to put a good system in, that's for sure. And like you said, being there from Maryville, he knows the tradition there with that Alcoa program. Pigeon Forge and Scott County finish out that region, Lee. 5-5, 2-4 was Pigeon Forge, and that's traditionally a pretty solid program as well. They've got 4 starters back on offense, 5 on defense. Scott County under new head coach Josh Terry, former player there at Scott. He coached there the past 6 years as an OC. He takes over as head coach.
That's right.
And they've got 4 starters back on both sides of the ball. But breaking down that region once again, I don't see anybody knocking off Alcoa. I think Austin East, Gatlinburg, Pittman compete for the number 2, and then Kingston and Northview Academy fighting for that last playoff spot.
I agree.
All right, Lee, well, that's regions 1 and 2. I'm going to go ahead and let our listeners at this point in time hear Gary Rankin, the legend. We were just talking about him. We caught up with him following that victory last year in the Blue Cross Bowl, so we'll let you hear that interview, and we'll return with more coverage here in just a second. Coach Rankin, my Molder Friday main event, big win for you, buddy. How did that compare to some others?
Well, they're all good. I mean, this is special because a lot of people thought we wouldn't get there at the first year, and it looked like that. We were young and having some problems with some things early in the year, so I'm proud of this bunch for improving like they did and staying with it. We've worked the dog out of them all fall, and had a hard week this week actually. So they responded, and our kids believe in each other. They believe in our program. They believe in their coaches. So it was a sweet victory for us.
Coach, I felt the dual jump ball down here in the second quarter. I think Connor Canfield, is that correct?
He's done that twice. He's done it about 3 times in the last 2 weeks, and Connor's a great kid. He's a team player. He wouldn't have cared if a ball came close to him tonight as long as we won, and he made some big plays for us, so it's great for him. He's such a special kid.
Russell Walker had a good night for you guys throwing the ball.
Russell did. Russell's played well lately and thrown the ball well, and he's just been ran the ball well. He's just a great quarterback.
Coach, did you feel they turned the ball over on downs down here, and then you had the fumble recovery for a touchdown? Was that the swing in the game in your opinion?
I think it's on time I started getting a little bit relaxed. I wasn't relaxed, but, we just didn't do a good job in the red zone, and we hadn't done a good job in the red zone all year. We've tried some different things, but in the past we've been physical enough, and we've had one big back that could knock it in there, and we were missing that, and we just didn't have that this year. We had to find other ways to score.
Yeah, it seemed like you put the ball in there a lot more this year.
We did, and we got somebody that can do it.
Yeah. Well, good win, Coach. Thank you. All right, Lee, that was head coach Gary Rankin with the Alcoa Tornadoes after their 2017 state title. Most people have them picked to be there again this year.
Yeah, if they don't, they're They're about to build another building up there just to put the gold balls in.
Well, I was going to say, man, why don't they just purchase a hotel up there in Coolville? Wouldn't that save them money in the long run?
Probably. I think he's got one with his name on it, a room reserve.
I bet you they go in there and make their reservations for the next year while they're up there. What do you think?
I would.
I would, no doubt. But, yeah, they're going to be tough this year, and I think I fully expect them to be in Cookville again this year, Lee. Moving on down, we're at Region 3, and Region 3 was won by Red Bank last year. Of course, Coach Grabowski's out. Chris Brown, who coached linebackers at Cleveland last year under Coach Cummings, comes in. He's also got coaching experience at Ottawa. He played fullback at Vanderbilt. You may remember him.
That's right.
11-3 last year, 5-0 were the lines of Red Bank. 5 starters back on both sides of the ball. Calvin Jackson III, he's listed as an athlete, Lee Teat, All-State, 1,070 receiving yards, 73 receptions, plays cornerback as well. He also has played some quarterback, may play quarterback this year, matter of fact. Mike Porter, DB, Maddox Wilkie, another quarterback, and Cole Stevens at offensive line.
Well, I like the fact that they got a senior line. D-line and O-line. They got several seniors on there, and they're kind of senior heavy. So I fully expect Red Bank probably to take this region. Well,
I don't know. I'm kind of leaning myself toward Loudon Lee because Jeff Herrig is back. You know, he left Loudon for a couple of years, and they really fell off. He came back last year in his first year back, 8-4, and they really fell off the map during his 2-year absence. Really had another. It's kind of like Jackson County, glad to get their old coach back. I'm sure the Redskins at Loudon were glad to get Jeff Herrig back. Turns things around, 8-4 last year, 4-1. As you mentioned, they did lose to Red Bank, but I think with the return of Herrig and the return of 13 starters, 7 on offense, 6 on defense, I look for Loudon to reclaim that region title this year, Lee.
Really? That's a big prediction. I hope to see it happen. I like Coach Herrig.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. Like I said, Jameson Herrig, probably I'm sure a coach's kid.
Mm-hmm.
Cole Jameson, Noah Burnett, Emerson Tripp, juniors and seniors. So got some experience.
So you could see it happening.
I can see them pushing.
You going with me?
No.
You stay on Red Bank.
Yeah, I can see them pushing for it, though.
Well, what about Signal Mountain? Josh Roberts comes in first year there, 4-7. And Signal Mountain was winning state titles league as recently as 5 or 6 years ago. They really fell off the map. Not so much success with Coach Price leaving. What's that been, 4 or 5 years ago now?
5 years.
That he retired, and they haven't had very much success since. Josh Roberts comes in 4-7, gets them in the playoffs, 3-2 in region play. They fell to a very good York team, 49-21 in the first round. But he's got 6 starters back on offense, 8 on defense. Travion Williamson, wide receiver. They've got Drew Lowry back at quarterback. How do you like the Eagles of Signal Mountain?
I think probably going to be the 3 spot in the region. Loudon and Red Bank, I think, are a little ahead. I don't know what's going on with Signal Mountain. Like you said, I don't know if there's other schools pulling from them now. They rezoned. I don't know how that goes over there. But, man, for years there, they were hard to beat.
When they first opened, Lee, if you'll remember, they were classified too low, just to be perfectly honest with you. They were in with Cascade and some of the smaller schools, even though the enrollment dictated that they should be in a higher classification. They did actually get bumped up ahead of the period where reclassification is done because the growth was so quick, and they haven't really caught up to their numbers now, I don't think. I believe they actually went all the way up to 4A a couple of years ago. Now they're back at 3A. So I think I agree with you. I think they're a playoff team. I don't know if they go much higher than 3rd seed, though.
Right.
Sweetwater, the Wildcats, Ethan Edmondson's help me out. Edmiston?
Yes,
Sorry. That's why I got him here to help me out with the pronunciation. 5 returning starters on each side of the ball. Hunter Jenkins at quarterback, Drew Hicks at running back, and, of course, Dominique Oggs, the wide receiver. They should be pretty good this year, Lee. I don't know. Another situation, I don't know whether they make any improvements, but I do believe they will contend for a playoff spot.
I do too. It could be Sweetwater, Signal Mountain 3 or 4. You could flip-flop those, I think.
Right. And then you got McMinn Central, Josh Gooden's team, 0-10, fell on hard times, the Chargers did. And McMinn Central is a program that's experienced some success in recent years, not so much of late, 33-63 in the 9 years that Josh Gooden's been there. 6 starters back on both sides of the ball. Nate Austin at running back. So I don't know that they make any substantial improvements here, Lee.
I don't think so. I think McMinn and Brainerd are, they're going
bring it up the bottom.
Well,
right?
They got a long way to go to break out of that.
Yeah,
I
I think so too, Lee. Moving on down to Region 4, a region that you're very familiar with, Smith County. Mike Dickerson's squad, 9-4, 4-1, take that region title last year over York Institute, a very good York Dragons team, as Derwin Wright returns as a head coach there. He's got a lot of prior experience as a head coach, 9-3 in his first year back. Getting back to Smith County, Lee, what do you expect out of the Owls?
Well, they lost 3 kids to college football, quarterback, wide receiver, and then, Bryant Goolsby, was Mr. Baseball.
Right.
He's gone. But the kids they got coming back, Cameron Spivey, his dad was a great athlete, college basketball player. Cameron's not very tall, but very athletic. John Ross Horde, who is out right now with double pneumonia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's been in the hospital, so it may take him a little bit to get back. And then Eli Martin, expect good things out of him. Right now, Coach Dickerson, I thought was on the hot seat.
Yeah. Prior to last year. I'd agree with that.
They had a good run.
I hate that. He's a real
really
good dude.
Good guy.
Really good dude. You can't find a better man to lead your kids.
You wouldn't want somebody, but I mean, he's got good moral character, and a good guy. So I'm glad to see that happen for him. This year, though, I'm honestly, I think York Institute may be the team to beat in that region.
I agree with that, Lee. I think Derwin Wright was exactly what the Dragons needed. He's back, and he's got a really good squad back. He's got 8 starters back on offense, 6 on defense. He's got Lathan Drake, the DB wide receiver, both sides of the ball, real relevant player on both sides of the ball. Cole Cooper's back at running back. Landrick Left Few. You go with that?
Yes, sir. Landrick Left Few.
I knew that name was going to get me. Well, that's the last name. I guess I couldn't control that. Anyway, Lee Teat, 14 starters back. I think the Dragons are solid. What about Uppermo? You heard anything? Got a new head coach?
Yeah, Adam Kane coming in from Sequatchie. Upperman has been a spread program. Sequatchie's typically a power style team. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of spin Coach Kane puts on the offense there, and can the kids adjust to that really quick. He does have 7 returning on both sides. Blake Metzger, very good ball player.
6-5 last year, 3-2 this year, Lee. As you mentioned, 7 starters back on both sides of the ball. I think the Bees potentially have a good season this year. This is a pretty tough region top to bottom, man. Not a huge drop-off top 5 teams. Sequatchie County lost 21-13 to Red Bank in the first round, and this is a 4 versus. And this region, Lee, was not decided, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, until week 11.
Last week.
Top to bottom was not decided until the last week.
Could be that way this year.
Could be that way this year. I totally agree with that. You got 5 starters back on both sides of the ball. Spencer Abels at wide receiver, Colin Hudson at running back. He's listed running back, quarterback, DB. I don't know exactly where they're going to have him lined up at. Clayton Casey at running back. A lot of good ball players here for Sequatchie. And one of our favorite coaches takes over that program. Mark Wattenberger came over from Stone Memorial, now the head coach at Sequatchie County. Unusual move, I think, Lee. That's a 4A to a 3A program. I'm sure he had his reasons, but I didn't really see that move coming.
I didn't either. But I think it's a good hire for Sequatchie.
I do too.
Good guy, and we'll see what they do. Like I said, I think the top 4 spots in this region, depending on injury here and there, you might be able to flip any of them.
Yeah. And next is Grundy County, Lee, and I have not updated. Tracy Hayworth is now the head coach there. Scott Smith, I had in my notes. Shame on me, I hadn't updated my notes. But Tracy Hayworth, I think, interesting hire. I think he's the first African-American coach there in Grundy County.
That's
so
right.
Be interesting to see how he does and what he brings to the program. I hear great things. I think he's probably going to be exactly what that program needed. The Yellow Jackets have had a lot of controversy going over the past year, and I think they need a guy like Tracy to get in there and take charge of what's going on.
I hope that the fans give him time.
I do too.
He only has 3 returners on offense, 2 returners on defense. That's hard for to step into if you're a good program.
Established
coach with an established program. That's hard to do anything with. So we got a new coach with a program that's been a little bit down, a lot of turmoil surrounding it. I hope they give Coach Hayworth time.
I do too, Lee. And another new coach, a lot of new coaches in this region. Cannon County, Matt Daniel takes over. He was assistant at Cannon County in 04 to 07. He's an alum. He's been coaching in Georgia since 2008, so it'll be interesting to see what he learned down there in the state of Georgia, and he comes back and tries to apply it to the Cannon County squad. It's been really, really bad over several years, so it'll be I'll be interested to see if he's able to make any kind of improvement upon that 0-10, and they haven't. I think they've only won. I didn't even look it up before we started, Lee, but they haven't won but a game or 2 over the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, if he can win 3 ball games, 4 games this year, dude, that'd be a heck of a success.
They'll build a statue, won't they?
They would.
All right, Lee, that's Region 4. Let's quickly move into Region 5. Pearl Cone, the headliner here, the Firebirds, Tony Brunetti's squad, 11-3, 4-0 in region play. The team that we felt would be in Cookeville last year before getting upset by Covington there in the semifinals. He's got 6 starters back on offense, 5 on defense.
Yeah, and the kids he's got coming back are unbelievable athletes, man. Jaden Harrison, athlete, senior, number 21 recruit going to Vanderbilt. Xavier Shepard, we saw last year as a quarterback, 186, got a cannon for an arm, very quick. Elijah Simmons, number 26 recruit in the state, committed to Tennessee. Quentin Taylor. I mean, you just go on.
He's a big old tackle, too.
Oh,
I saw some highlight video on him. As a Vol fan, I was pretty excited to see that commitment there. But you're right, Lee. I mean, I usually tag, dominant players in our notes with red lettering in the characters. And just about all the returning players have red letters for Pearl Cone. A lot of athleticism there for the Firebirds. Giles County made a move up our top 10, Lee Teat, and it's you can attribute it directly to Bryce Wallace deciding to come over from Marshall County.
Well, he's originally from Giles County. His brother played at Giles County.
Right.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think his brother's taking over the OC spot now.
Correct.
At Giles County for Coach O'Connor. Anytime you get a quarterback the quality that Wallace is with a heady ball player, his brother's coming in. Yes, Giles County's got to move up the ranks.
And he's got KJ Ziegler, who was an all-state wide receiver to throw to. This kid had 1,340 receiving yards, 70 receptions last year, Lee. So he's got him a big target to go to. Interestingly, Cole Stiles, the quarterback who played, I believe, for Coach O'Connor when he was at Buckhorn, Alabama, has transferred up, and he's also on that roster. So will they go with a 2-quarterback system? Is that Wallace's job to lose? I'll be kind of curious to see how all that plays out.
I think it could be, but Wallace may play wide out.
Maybe.
he may be playing wide out. We don't know. I mean, he's athletic enough to play anywhere on the field.
Right.
I wish I knew more about Styles to.
Well, I saw some highlight on him, Lee. He can sling it.
Yeah.
He looks good in the highlight video. But again, I would think with Bo there and the familiarity with he and Bryce, that would be Bryce's job to lose. Would be my take on it anyway.
Yeah, a lot of juniors and seniors on that team.
Yes, sir. So Giles County potentially a solid squad this year. East Nashville, another team. Brian Waite is 32 and 35, I think, in 6 years there.
Right.
Lee 5 and 7 last year, 2 and 2 in region play. 7 starters back on both sides of the ball. So East Nashville looking to move up, I believe.
Looking to move up. Jay Sean Watkins, number 15 recruit in the States, an athlete, 6'4", 185, great ball player. You know, three spot maybe.
I don't see them getting ahead of Giles County or Pearl.
No.
So, yeah, I guess that's where to be. That's where they finished last year, Lee. And then Whites Creek. Well, I'll say they finished 3. There are only 4 teams in that region. Is that right? Anyway, Whites Creek, Clifton Davis, new head coach there. He was a middle school coach in Arkansas, Lee Teat. 1-9 last year, 0-4. I don't see them improving much on that. Do you?
No, and I'll tell you why I hate that too, because the Whites Creek Cobras for years, man, were a force in the metro area.
Oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. It's Stratford. I knew there was another team in there. I wasn't seeing that.
I hate to see Whites Creek fall off like they have, because for a long time the Cobras was a really good program. So hopefully this guy can get it together.
Yeah, they were really, really bad last year. But Stratford, the team I missed, I don't know how I missed them in my notes, but Spartans, Jarrell Cogman, the head coach there, 3-8 last year. And Stratford is traditionally a very good program. Coach Fitzgerald was there as recently as 2 years ago,
right,
and they had that team looking really good, but they've fallen off quite a bit last year. They got knocked out in the first round by Fairview, 27-20. They do have 7 starters back on offense, 3 on defense. The headliner here, Jalon Gupton, the offensive lineman, he's the number 29 recruit in the state. So Stratford potentially jumps East Nashville, you think?
Well, they're big up front.
Right.
Senior offensive line, so yes, very good possibility, because O-line I like. If you're trying to push, you need an O-line to do it.
Yeah. All right, Lee, well, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break here. We want to listen to Marty Wheeler, my good buddy over at Covington. I got his comments following that title game last year. Real tough loss for his crew, but I was able to catch up with him following the game, and I hope you guys enjoy that interview. We'll be back right after that. Mike Molder, Friday Main Event. Coach Wheeler, tough one, buddy.
It's one that is right now. It's really hard to take. I hadn't had time really to reflect on it. I know the 2 turnovers were huge, and against a team like them with the kind of success they've had, you can't turn the ball over. And we knew that going in. I think you take the 2 turnovers away, and it's coming right down to the wire. But part of that, you got to give our core credit too. I mean, they're who they are because they don't make mistakes. They made more plays than we did. That's pretty much it.
I felt probably the big swing in the game, Coach. You made the big 4th down stop down there, and as you mentioned, you had the turnover on the reverse. I think that was supposed to go to number 24. What happened there?
It looked like to me that he took his eyes off the ball. Gant was trying to get the ball to him, I'm sure, pretty quick, and just didn't look the ball in, like he should long enough. I mean, and we could see on film. I mean, it was set up for a huge play for us. I mean, I think it would have been a big time play for us. You got to make plays.
Coach, I felt Quentin Booker had an awesome game for you guys. He was just lights out. I think he had 8 solo tackles in the first half. Talk a little bit about him.
Quentin Booker's he's a player. That sums him up. He's an unbelievable leader for us. He's been a player for us for 3 years. He'll be a hard one to replace. But I mean, you know what I mean. The old saying is, big time players make big time plays in big time games, and that's what he does.
Coach, I appreciate it, buddy. Good luck to you next year.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, Lee. That was our buddy Marty Wheeler. You gotta love Marty Wheeler. He's one of my favorites.
Good guy, man.
He and I like cutting up, and I think he enjoys as much as I do. But he's a good guy, and had a good ball team, Lee. And I think they're gonna have a good ball team again this year. We'll be talking about them in a minute, but for right now, let's jump in at Region 6 and Chris Hughes, the flag football professional.
Unbelievable run he had.
Yeah.
What is he, 50?
51, I believe. I think I know he's right around my age. I'm 51. I think he's close to that. But Yeah, he can still play. He's a
Led
baller.
Led
isn't
them to the championship against a bunch of ex-NFL guys.
He did. You're right.
Unreal.
So the Fairview Yellow Jackets, Lee, finished 9-4 last year, 5-0 in region play. They fell to Pearl Cone, as we mentioned in the opener, 41-17 in that quarterfinal. He's got 7 kids back on offense, 6 on defense. Hiller Gray, offensive lineman, is one of the guys to watch. I think that offensive line is going to be really good. You got Jackson Clevenger there as well. Nose tackle is Spencer Flake. So I think they're going to be strong on both sides of the ball. And I really like what the Yellow Jackets bring to the table here.
Fairview's always fast, athletic. Cam Harris-Lusk, quarterback, senior. Logan Nardozzi is a sophomore. Joey Mathis, sophomore running backs. So typically every Fairview team I've ever seen, they attack the edge a lot. They're quick. I wouldn't expect anything different.
Lee, I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but for some reason I'm thinking they had a quarterback that formerly played there that's transferred in. I may be way off base. For some reason that's rolling around in my head, but we'll check on that. Obviously, we should have checked on that before the show, but I'm thinking they had a quarterback that transferred in, but I may be wrong on that. Felt like I should mention it just in case. Cheatham County, Lee, finishes second in that region. 5 starters back on both sides of the ball. The Cubs are led by Eric Hatley, 15 and 18 in 3 years there at Cheatham County. They fell to East Nashville in the first round, and you and I were talking about that in the break. I think Region 6 lost 3 out of 4 in the first round, correct, with Fairview the only winner advancing.
That's right. And I think obviously they were all the Region 5 opponents.
Right. 7-4, 4-1 last year were the Cubs. Sycamore finishes third. Justin Robinson, and I met Coach Robinson up in Cookville, Lee, and I like that dude. We actually sat together and had a couple of adult beverages. I don't know if I should say that, but hey, he was up there on vacation. It's all good. But good guy, young guy, got a sharp football mind. I sat up there and talked to him a couple of nights following when we got back from Cookville. We sat up there and talked and got a good feel for him. And I think he's got that program headed in the right direction, Lee Teat. 6-5 last year, 3-2 in region play. They did get knocked out by John Backus in Giles County, 50-20. So he said that I think it was it Fairview's head coach? I told you about it. One of the coaches that Giles County faced further on had thanked Coach Robinson for exposing about everything Giles County could throw at them offensively. He's got 8 kids back on offense, 7 on defense.
Well, Tristan Hampton, all-state linebacker, running back, senior, big cog in that wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Trevor Gagnon, quarterback. Looks like he's got a senior laden, or juniors and seniors O-line. That's always important. So I see Sycamore. Ooh, they might push for 2.
I'm looking at them, Lee, as challenging Fairview as well. I think, especially with so many kids back on both sides of the ball, and having personally met Robinson, I think they got the ingredients to compete for this Region 6 title. Well, whether they get over the top or not, I think some things would have to go their way in the Fairview game. I think Fairview still got more talent,
yes,
by far, but Sycamore has made some advances under Justin Robinson. They're now 2 years, 11-10 in those 2 years. I think they're getting better. Camden Central, the 4th place team, were shut out by Pearl Cone. They got 7 starters back on both sides of the ball. It's the Lions were 2-9 last year. Lee made the playoffs as a 1-9 team. Am I seeing that correct?
Lost first round.
No, wait a minute. That can't be right. I've got my numbers. I've got to have my numbers wrong. Yeah, I guess I do. 2-8. They were 2-8 in the play. How you make the playoffs at 2-8? That's what's wrong with this system, man. You should never make postseason play at 2-8. At any rate, I'm rambling a little bit, Lee. But Camden Central, the Lions 2-8, 2-9 overall in the playoffs as the 4th seed. Shut out by Pearl Cone. 7 back, both sides of the ball. Do they make any moves? They make any advances? Is that the top?
Yes.
They do.
Yes.
Really? Okay. Where you got them at?
4.
You got them at 4.
I squeak in at 4.
Squeak in at 4. Okay, that's what they did last year.
Because Coach Blow, he lost 9 ball games last year, but he's 48-32.
That's true. So
must have just been looking at his record and thinking about all the things that go into it. He's young. He just had a down year.
That's true.
I expect him to kind of bounce back a little bit.
Okay, I'll go along with that. Harpeth Lee, the Indians, Doug Loop's team, 5 and 6, or 5 starters back on offense, 6 on defense. They were 4 and 6 last year, 1 and 4, missed the playoffs. I don't see them doing a lot this year, nor do I see Stewart County, despite 7 starters back on both sides of the ball. I think this region may be just a little bit too stout up top.
It is.
That's your opinion as well?
Yes, sir.
You concur?
Yes, sir.
Region 7, Lee, let's move on into it. Covington, we just talked about Marty Wheeler squad, 7 starters back on both sides of the ball. Keyshawn Gant, the fullback, 2,060 yards, 23 touchdowns. He was an all-stater. One of the better-looking backs I saw last year.
Very physical back. Downhill runner, runs behind his pads well. That's what you want. That's what Coach Wheeler teaches. Sterling Lomax, good quarterback.
Yep.
He's got plenty of weapons, Coach Wheeler does.
He does, and like we said, 7 kids back on both sides of the ball for a 13-2 team, 5-0 in region play. That Milan squad's going to be tough. That's probably going to be the hurdle they'll have to cross this year. Milan played them really close both games last year. Of course, Covington knocked them off 21-14 in the second round. I believe it was a 1 score the first meeting they had as well, Lee. Milan under new management, first time in many, many years. Craig Teddy Pettigrew, defensive coordinator the last 7 years for the Bulldogs, takes over a 6-6 squad, 3-2 in the region. What's your thoughts on Milan?
If you read the coaches poll down there, a lot of people have Milan finishing first over Covington in the coaches selections.
Did they know Coach Morris was gone?
I would think that was after Coach Pettigrew because I don't know how they could see that. But, hey, Milan traditionally, Milan and Covington both, traditional powerhouses. I could see it 1 and 2.
Yeah, I could too. And Milan does have 8 kids back on offense, 7 on defense, and Dylan Mabry is back, very good ball player. Taylor Lockhart, Devontae Heron, Demarius Bates, Jamari Weathers. I mean, you can go on and on. A lot of kids, big name kids. They did lose a player that we saw to Cane Ridge, Lee Teat, and unfortunately his name is leaving me at the tailback. Well, actually, he looked good on defense too. They had him playing safety. He's a very versatile player. Right. Wears a lot of hats. I'm kicking myself right now that I don't remember his name, but I'll get that name and I'll have that name for you when we do our top 10. But losing him, Lee, may be a factor because I think he had quite a few rushing yards for him last year.
It will be. You need all the weapons you can get.
So we skipped over South Gibson that finished second at 9-3, 4-1. Lee, they don't have a lot coming back off of that team. They've only got 4 back on offense, 1 on defense. A lot of linemen back. If you look at the key players returning up at the top of the survey submitted into Donovan Stewart this year by Scott Stedham, he's got offensive linemen very prevalent in the returning players. So a solid offensive line is definitely a good thing for the Hornets.
I think a slide. I think they slide a little bit this year.
They slide a little, drop down below Milan.
Yeah, I think Milan scoots up. Maybe South Gibson takes a spot down.
And looking on down, Lee, Bolivar Central, the Tigers, Woodrow Lowe's team, 23-20 in the last 4 years. Finished 6-5 last year, 2-3 in the region. They fell to Raleigh, Egypt, 41-13 there in the first round. Got 7 kids back on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, that's always big. You know, Christian Matthews is a linebacker coming back. Jar Lewis. You love linebacker.
that, don't you?
Jar and Thunder. I've got one named
Thunder. They were predestined.
Oh, they're playing linebacker, man.
Yeah.
Playing linebacker.
So Bolivar, the Tigers, again, that fourth-place team. McNairy Central, Lee, 4-6 last year, but only 0-5 in region play. Did not win a region game. 7 starters back on both sides of the ball. Any situation where Brian Frank's team moves into the playoffs? No. I like you, Lee. Them thought out, long responses there. Westview Chargers, Lee, the last team in this region 4-6, 1-4 in region play. 7 returners on offense, 6 on defense. They do have, ironically, a freshman quarterback in Ty Simpson, already gotten offers from Tennessee, LSU, and Michigan.
And they got a sophomore running back,
Taylor.
Back. So I think Coach Cantrell looking at the future. And
you've got them moving up, I assume?
Maybe a little, but I think he's more looking at next year and the year after that.
You got a quarterback with offers from Big Ten and the SEC. You don't see him finishing any higher in the region.
5th.
Come on, man.
I don't see it.
All right, we'll see.
Too young.
All right, we'll see. I think the Chargers make the playoffs this year.
Really?
I'm gonna.
What do you think? 4 seed?
4 seed.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Uh-oh.
Book it.
Region
8, Raleigh, Egypt. Raleigh, Egypt entered the playoffs undefeated last year. Larry Franklin is now the head coach, takes over that program. He was at Tresvant briefly, Lee Teat. Pharaohs now. That's a good situation to step into right there, brother. You're taking over a team that went to the quarterfinals. You got 10 starters back on offense, 6 on defense. Clifton Tunstall, the quarterback, is back. I mean, what do you think?
They're loaded with talent.
Loaded with
athletes.
Brandon Johnson, a really highly decorated wide receiver. I don't know, man. How do you walk away from that?
I don't
know. Okay. Wooddale Lee, the second-place team, 6-5, 4-1 in region play. They fell to Milan 28-6 there in the first round. 7 starters back on both sides of the ball. They've got Darian Norfleet back, the running back, and also I think Big Edward Griffin is there to lead that defensive side of the ball. So I think the Cardinals probably have a pretty good team. I don't see them knocking off Raleigh, but should be a good squad again this year.
Yeah, I think they're probably the 2 seed in that region right now going in. Anytime you're down around Memphis, though, it's kind of up and down.
Right.
Like sometimes you'll be thinking one thing and another thing will happen. They got so many athletes.
Mm-hmm.
One kid goes down, some kid you never heard of, all of a sudden he just all-world steps up. But I think Raleigh Egypt's the class of 8-3A, Wooddale probably second.
Tresvant, boy, how the mighty have fallen. You know, they all back-to-back title games under Telly White. He's gone. Antoine Wellington steps in as head coach this year, graduated in 95 from Tresvant, been the defense coordinator there for the past 3 years. The Bears 4-7, 3-2. Of course, we know they got in a lot of trouble with the TSSAA.
Yes.
I don't know if there was any sanctions ever levied. I don't know if that's still being debated. I don't know what the situation there is, but I don't see Tresvant doing any better than the 4-7 they had last year.
I don't either.
Melrose, the Ronald Davis, 3-8, 2-3. They've got 7 total starters back. They lost to Covington in the first round. Then looking down at Sheffield, Lee, and Martin Luther King, the last 2 teams in this region, both of them 1-9. Sheffield with a lot of starters back, 8 on each side of the ball. And then Martin Luther King with 3 starters back on offense, 6 on defense. I don't know if anything changes up in this region. What's your opinion?
I don't. You know, and last year, Region 8 had a tough time with Region 7 in the first round.
Yeah, and I think that's probably going to be more of the same this year,
right.
With the exception of Raleigh, obviously. And it may be Wooddale could squeak in and get a win. Don't think so, but possible. All right, Lee, well, that's a region wrap-up. So we're going to go. We want to thank our good friend Jim Thompson, CoachT.com, the guy that's supporting us this year. He's jumped in and joined up with the Friday main event as our main lead sponsor. We appreciate him. So we want to take a minute to tell you guys a little bit about Coach T. On the other side of the break, we'll give you our preseason top 10 and see who has that glorious #1 spot. I'm sure everybody's scratching their heads over who'll be #1 and 3A, aren't they, Lee?
All the coaches are waiting on this.
All right, this is Mike Molder and Lee Teat, Friday Main Event. We'll be back in just a minute.
Okay, folks, if you're watching this video, you're obviously a big high school football fan like us. When Lee and I started this channel up, one of the first guys we felt we needed to reach out to and try to join us in this venture was Jim Thompson. I know most of you guys know him as Coach T. Jim was a visionary. He knew back in 1998 the internet was going to continue to grow, and he started his website, CoachT.com, at that time. Now, his commitment to high school sports has provided one of the best sources for information and entertainment across the state when it's involving high school sports in general. I know I became a member back in 2007, and I'm closing in on 10,000 posts now on the website. So I strongly urge you guys to visit this website. Once you see what the website has to offer and you fall in love with it like I have, you're going to want to look at the Coach T Plus membership. That's only $24 a year, and if you break that down, I think it works out to 46 cents a week. I mean, you can't even get a pack of gum for that now. So a lot of things, a lot of advantages to being a Plus member. One, obviously, you lose the annoying pop-up ads. They're gone once you become a Plus member, and you get access to some restricted boards. Other non-paying members don't have access to these boards, so you got a lot more access to the website. One of my favorite features is you have the ability to edit and correct schedules. So if your high school team has a game incorrectly posted, has a score incorrectly posted, you're allowed as a Plus member to go in and correct that. So a lot of things about being a Plus member that you'll enjoy. So I strongly urge you to look into that. Lee and I, again, we love Coach T, and we appreciate everything that he does for high school sports.
All right, we're back, Lee, and again, we want to thank Coach T. Appreciate everything he's done and jumping on board with us, man. That was huge for the Friday Main Event. When you got the largest website in the state and the most informative and most entertaining website, you got those guys backing you. It really says a lot about what we're doing.
Yeah, and like we said earlier, talking about it, not only is it football, but it's every sport.
It is.
Every high school sport in the state of Tennessee, you can find out some info on.
Yeah, it's great, man. I enjoy it. I get on there daily, Lee, and I'm up close to 10,000 posts now, brother. So I really enjoy the site. All right, Lee, it's time for the Friday Main Event Class 3A Top 10. And I think we could probably surmise what the top 1 is going to be, but the other top 9 will be interesting. Pretty sure for the listeners. We've got 4 teams just outside our top 10, Lee. You could probably make an argument for them being in it. Smith County, your buddy Mike Dickerson over there, one of those teams just outside the top 10, but I think they'll finish strong.
I do too. I think they're in Region 4 3A. I think they can contend for that region, depending on how some balls bounce for them. But lost 3 critical players, but they got 3 good kids coming in, and, we'll see how it goes, but I expect them to be in the hunt.
Sycamore, Justin Robinson's squad over in Region 6, Lee, another team I'm pretty convinced has made a lot of improvements. I'm not ready to put them right there in that top 10 yet, but having a lot of conversation with Coach Robinson up there in Cookville, I feel like he's got things going in the right direction. 8 starters back on offense, 7 on defense, as we mentioned in the last segment. I think the game against Cheatham County on August 31st, Lee, is probably, it's a region game. It's the first region game. Shut out 21-0 last year. The fans are going to know where they're at as a program once they play that game there.
Yeah, and I bet Coach Robinson's got that penciled in, get a little bit of revenge.
Absolutely. I would say you're right. Lee, another Region 4 team, I think, is a contender for a top 10, a contender for a region title. Upperman Bees, under new head coach Adam Kane, he had a lot of success there at Sequatchie County. 6-5 last year were the Bees, so he's got a lot of talent back. 14 kids back starting. I think the Bees are going to be stout this year.
They got the potential to be real stout. Just depends on the transition, how Coach Kane transitions over and how the kids transition over to him. Be interesting to see that last regular season game. They square off against his old school Sequatchie. So
Yeah.
he'll have that and ready to roll.
Upperman won that game 20-14 last year, so Coach Kane is going to feel a lot of pressure to beat his former team this year. So that could be a region title on the line. Those teams are going to be contending. At Region 4, much like last year, Lee, up for grabs. Red Bank, Lee. Red Bank is another team we had just outside the top 10. This was a semifinal team from last year. They were shut out by Alcoa. But 5 starters back on both sides of the ball, and Calvin Jackson leading the way. Very talented receiver with 1,070 yards, as we mentioned. So I like Red Bank and new head coach Chris Brown.
October the 26th will determine that region probably against Loudon.
I'd say you're right. I think that's definitely going to be a big one for them. All right, Lee, it's time for the top 10, and the team we have at number 10 is another Region 4 team. We're pretty high on this Region 4. Well, I say we're high on them. We think they're going to be a competitive region.
Very competitive.
Don't really know who's going to come out of there, but we think York is probably the top team in that region. The Dragons, with 14 starters back, looking good this year.
Well, Coach Wright, typically his teams are very physical. Red Bank beat the brakes off of them last year in the second round. I actually picked York to win that ball game. I thought York could go down there and do something with them.
Who did I pick? I forgot.
You picked Red Bank. I thought York may go down there and do something with them. But Coach Wright knows what he's doing, and he's got, like you said, 14 returning starters. So,
well, they did win the first round game, Lee, and the way the postseason goes, just a bad bounce here and there early, and the next thing you know, it gets out of hand, and that may have been the situation there. Lee, at number 9, we got Loudon. Again, Jeff Herrick's team. Jeff Herrick back last year, turned the program around in 1 year, 8-4, 4-1 in region play. They did get knocked out by Smith County. 1-point game there in the second round. 13 starters back. I think Loudon Redskins are going to have a pretty solid ball club.
I think so, too. Signal Mountain game will be, I think, pretty interesting ball game on the 14th of September. Loudon can't slip up there.
Yeah, Signal's got a lot of starters back, and that game right there definitely have a big crowd to watch it. Raleigh, Egypt, a Region 8 team, really the only Region 8 team we were given a lot of credit to, the only team that won a playoff game last year. Larry Franklin in his first year there. I don't know how much changes. That's the question mark here. I think with 10 starters back on offense, 6 on defense, you can make a case for this quarterfinal team being higher than 8th, but the question marks around the coaching staff were the main reason why we put them down at 8.
That's right. They averaged 36 points margin of victory last year in all their wins. Some of that could have been strength of schedule, maybe. We'll see what happens against Wooddale. That was the closest region game last year, right?
Right, I think so. And then the 36-point margin of victory was in the region games. And when you play in a weak region, I don't know that gets you prepared for playoff ball.
Exactly.
And that, again, that's another factor as to why we didn't really have the Pharaohs any higher than what we did. Lee, at number 6, Fairview, the Yellow Jackets, Chris Hughes squad, 9-4 last year. They did get knocked out by Pearl Cone in the quarterfinals. What are you saying, Lee? Did I miss one?
Did we do 7?
Did we do 7?
Milan.
We didn't do 7. I can't count. I went to community. Counting backwards 10 to.
We got to get Milan in there.
Yeah, we got to get Milan in there. Sorry about that, Bulldog fans. I jumped ahead of myself. But, yeah, Milan, my apologies. I'm glad you caught that, buddy. I skipped right over them. The Bulldogs, Teddy Pettigrew taking over for Coach Morris. That squad is they're going to have their hands full with a really good Covington team, Lee. But as we mentioned, one-score games last year, who knows?
Lost by 1 point.
Exactly, they did.
Then met them in the playoffs. The second round, lost by 7.
Lost by 7. So those teams are pretty equal.
I'll tell you what, man. I kind of like Milan right now. I think it's definitely going to come down between them and Covington in that region. Milan definitely deserving of being in the top 10.
And that's a game that some of the assistant coaches at Covington has invited us to come watch, Lee. They're expecting a big battle there as well. So we may have to check our schedule for that week. I think that's September the 14th, so we'll have to see what we got going on that week. That may be the South Pittsburgh week. I don't know. We'll get back to our fan base on that,
Right.
but that's a potential good road trip right there. Lee, let me go with number 6, Fairview. That was a big shocker, wasn't it?
There we go.
Yeah, the Yellow Jackets, Chris Hughes' team, 9-4, 5-0, 7 starters back on offense. Fairview's going to be a good ball team again this year.
I think so. Quarterfinal team from last year. Return a lot. You see a lot of seniors on that team. Very tough out-of-region schedule.
And it has to be, Lee. They won their region games by an average of 42 points last year. And I know I keep harping on this, but when you're playing in that weak region, that you have to go out and schedule tough. And they did. They got Page. They've got Waverly Central, and they've got Ravenwood, 6A Ravenwood on that schedule. So kudos to Coach Hughes for going out, scheduling up in his non-region, knowing that the teams, in his region are potentially not as strong or not strong enough to prepare them for postseason.
Right.
All right, Lee, that was number 6. Now we're at number 5, and that's going to be our buddy David O'Connor there at Giles County. And we actually moved them up a couple of spots. I think we initially had them at 7. Bryce Wallace comes over, and, of course, Coach Stiles transfers in. Excuse me, and I think the quarterback spot was what we had question marks about.
That's exactly right. We had a question mark at the QB spot. We knew Ziegler.
Mm-hmm.
He's great, all-state kid.
Pretty stout on defense.
Yeah.
13 kids back from last year's 7-5 team, second-round team. So no doubt talent there.
Yeah, I think definitely, Giles County's a top 5 team now, especially with Bryce moving over there. Pearl Cone on August the 31st to let him know where he stands.
Yeah, it's one thing they do weirdly is they have a bye week in week 1, so they'll play 10 straight games to end the season. I don't like that. I mean, I'm sure that was a scheduling thing Coach O'Connor couldn't get around, but that concerns me that there's no break for those kids playing 10 straight weeks going into the postseason.
Well, he'll have to be just, particular about if he gets into a blowout-type ball game or something, just set his kids and rest.
Yeah,
He's going to have to.
Good point. All right, Lee, moving up to number 4, we got Austin East in that tough Region 2 with Alcoa, the Roadrunners, Jeff Phillips' team. 6 starters back on offense, 7 on defense. I like Austin East. I think I like them to get to the quarterfinals again, but I don't see any way they get by Alcoa.
I don't either. Austin East, one of the most athletic teams in the state every year.
Right.
They're just loaded with athletes. Just unfortunate for them. Alcoa's right there.
Yeah, and Alcoa is always be the demon in Region 2, and the Roadrunners. They did play them close in the first meeting, but they've got them again in Week 10. That will be for the Region 2 title, I'm pretty sure, again this year, Lee. But, again, tough hill to climb if you're a Roadrunner fan. Now, Lee, that leads us to the number 3 team, and the number 3 team we have is our favorite coach, Marty Wheeler, Covington Chargers. Coach Wheeler, I don't know why he's my favorite coach. I like the guy. He makes me laugh. He's a riot. Alabama fan. I don't like that about him, but I guess you can't help that. 7 starters back on both sides of the ball, and we mentioned earlier that September the 14th game against Milan should decide Region 7. It's going to be a tough game for them. I think if they can get past that game, pretty smooth sailing.
I think so too. And Keyshawn Gant, I'm excited to see what kind of numbers he puts up this year. Only thing that may hurt him a little bit is he lost Booker.
Yeah, Quentin Booker was one of the best-looking ball players we saw in Cookville, and I no doubt that's a huge loss to that secondary. But with 7 starters back, I think they'll be okay. He'll be able to rotate some athletes in back there. But I like Covington. I think Covington's got a really good shot. If they can get past Milan and then past, in all likelihood, our number 2 team, which is Pearl Cone, the Firebirds. Tony Brunetti's team lost by a field goal 31-28 to Covington in that semifinal. But, you know, we mentioned in the region rundown, Lee, just loaded with talent.
This may be Coach Brunetti's most talented team he's had.
You'd be hard to argue against that. I agree.
Xavier Shepard is a really good player, and obviously Jaden Harrison going to Vanderbilt. Look, Coach Brunetti just has a lot of athletes. He may just out-athlete everybody.
Well, you know, we mentioned they had shutouts in the first 2 rounds last year. I think they got caught looking ahead. They were looking at that Alcoa team in the semifinals, and probably a less athletic Covington Charger team just got in there and just pushed them around, and they were ready. Pearl-Cohn wasn't, and that was the result. All right, Lee, well, we're up to number 1. Can you give me a hint? Who do you think number 1 should be in this 3A class?
Alcoa.
Alcoa, the Tornadoes, Gary Rankin squad. Gary Rankin, 410 career wins, 14 titles. Does that sound right?
That's about right.
I think that's right. I didn't check that before we started, but
he's close.
He's way up there. A lot of titles at First Riverdale, and now Alcoa. I just don't see it, brother. I just can't see anybody knocking them off again this year. Pearl-Cohn, possibly.
That's going to be a really good matchup, talent for talent.
Yeah.
Typically, though, Alcoa is just so physical.
And so well coached.
Very well coached.
Yeah.
But they're so physical. They smack you in the mouth every play. They don't take plays off. Those kids hit you every play.
Yeah.
And they're very disciplined in what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows.
Right.
I mean, that's why they're there every year.
So we're looking at Alcoa and Pearl-Cohn and Cookeville. Is that your opinion as well?
That's kind of my opinion.
You concur, my friend?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, that is the Friday main event, Class 3A region rundown and top 10. Mike Molder and Lee Teat, we appreciate you guys watching. Again, we need you to hit the subscribe button. That's the only way you survive if you're a YouTube channel.
Got to feed our kids, man.
Got to feed our kids. We're not making any money. Surely you don't think we're going to make any money on this. I just want to get it up to where we're getting free URLs and that type of stuff. I'm not looking financial, brother, but yeah, we want subscribers. We get that subscriber count up. It makes it a lot easier for us to operate. Unfortunately, it's not going to help us financially, but it makes a lot of things easier as far as operation goes. Again, Mike Molder, Lee Teat, subscribe to us, like the video. We'll be back with Class 4A tomorrow. We appreciate you guys.